I have very high expectations for all of my students. In fact, that was one of the things that my principal said is that, yes, I have high expectations, but they're reachable for my students. I have she sees very few misbehaviors in my classroom, and that's because I teach them the expectations from the beginning, like from the first day of school. So there are teachers out there like me still here in the university. As far as you closing the schools, of course, I was really distraught to hear that, but at the same time, working at Fairview Elementary, we have kindergarten teachers burdened with 27, almost 30 kindergartners, and we don't have enough teachers to help them to minimize those classroom sizes. But what I have, and this is to my knowledge, it is to my knowledge that kindergarten is not a mandatory thing in the state of Alaska. And so being a first grade teacher over the last 2 years, I have seen children come to me for first grade for the first time. They didn't go to preschool, they didn't go to kindergarten, they arrive in first grade with no social, emotional awareness, they have no experience at all. And to top that off, things that would have been taught in their preschool or maybe even in kindergarten, such as speech delays or special abilities that they need, those things are not diagnosed and they are not even recommended until first grade, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you guys would make preschool a priority here in the state of Alaska, and I do have to say this, I was also a preschool teacher and I had an in-home preschool for over 10 years. So I've worked with these children and I understand that if you teach them from a very young age, put them in those social environments, they are going to be successful. And if we make kindergarten a priority, these parents will have to bring their kids to school. You guys would raise your enrollment by making kindergarten a priority, and you would also make it a less stressful environment for those coming into the first grade. So you just have to start when they're young. You guys need to make preschool a priority, kindergarten a priority, and we need some truancy officers. I have plenty of students that just don't come to school for whatever reason, 30 days in a quarter, which is absolutely ridiculous. We have no truancy officers, we have nothing like that to make sure that these kids are going to school.
James, go ahead. I don't know these things.
Thank you. I was just going to address a couple of comments about we had two speakers mention class sizes, and I just wanted to point out that school closures are not an impact specifically on class sizes. It's the same number of students, same number of staff in different rooms, okay, or different facilities. But if class sizes do rise, it will be because as a community, as a board, as an administration, we haven't been able to reduce expenditures or find enough one-stop areas of revenue to actually deal with the pupil-teacher ratio in the district. And the district has had to, over time, raise pupil-teacher ratios, which is a formula we use to give teachers to each school site. And if class sizes do rise, they aren't going to be because of closures. It'll be because we haven't been able to get our balanced budget enough through other means, and we've had to go to raising class sizes, but it won't be related to a school closure. And preschool and kindergarten are priorities for us. For pre-K, we do have to go through a lot of hoops to break funds and use monies from different grants and sources, but pre-K is a priority for us, which feeds into the community.
May I just say one more thing also, is that as far as preschool also, preschool needs to be full-time. There's so many parents that would love to have their children go to a preschool for just a half day, but as a child care provider of 10 years, I can tell you, we don't take part-time children. So if they can't be there full day, we're going to take a full day child over a part day child, which means parents would opt to just keep their kids at home. So if you do like a preschool program thing like you wanted to in the schools, make it a full-time program, because that's what the parents need. They can't afford half day. They just can't do that.
Thank you, Leslie. Can you set the 3 for James, please?
I didn't count for James yet.
Okay, great, thanks.
Waiting for James.
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 I I do have a question, just for clarification. So, I believe this school, the 5th grade or 6th graders they would normally go to Clark, right? Is that the case? They would normally go to Clark? So, when you split them up from Willowa and Ptarmigan, will the kids from Ptarmigan be heading towards Baggage, and then the kids from Willowa be heading towards Clark at 6th grade?
So one thing that we're proposing, and the reason we can't answer that yet, one thing we're proposing to the board is to move all 6th grade and elementary to middle schools. And there's a lot of reasons that Mark can talk about as to why we do that. So it's going to happen over probably 2 years at least, maybe 3. But when we move all 6th grade to middle school, we're going to reboundary, because the current boundaries still don't quite impact Central at all, or Mirror Lake. And until we've redrawn the new boundaries, which we will do if the board approves 6th grade to middle school, then we're going to be able to see where the new boundaries are for middle school.
Is that going to be coming up in the next meeting too?
After the board votes, and then we'll be working the 6th grade to middle school boundaries. In fact, we'll be starting in the next week. We did have to get to these town halls. We've got 3 town halls next week. And then we'll be shifting over to start looking at the 6th grade middle school. And then after that, in the new year, it'll be school start times.
And James, I show everybody going to Clark. So Willowa, Wonder Park, Tony, and also to Clark. And so I don't think anything will change.
Okay, I'll just give you favors that changes. I do have one comment. I know I probably only have 30 seconds left. But I grew up in this neighborhood, and this was actually the school that I was in back in the 80s. And so when I first heard about the budget and that schools were closing, and I was hoping to God I wasn't going to see Wonder Park on there, but it was on there. And it's very heartbreaking to see that we're at this point. I understand the school board has some major decisions that they're going to have to make concerning what schools need to be closed and who's going to be made open. I know at one point there was a discussion about remodeling the school or even rebuilding the school, and I know that's off the table now. But I do need to point out that the main reason why this school is closing is because it's all about who you elect. And for those people who are not advocating for education out there in Juneau, don't vote for them. Yep. Vote for those who are going to be fighting for our schools. Yep. And I don't even see, I know we have some legislators up here that's fighting for our schools. And I don't see one legislator that should be here that's not fighting for our schools. We have legislators over there that fight for our schools. But if they're not going to fight for our schools, don't vote for them. This is the result of us voting in the wrong people into office. Thank you.
I'm a guest from New Mountain Valley. The main reason for closing Wonder Park and 5 other elementary schools is not because it saves the district money. In fact, consolidating schools will actually reduce formula funding and eventually cost the district in lost revenue. Instead, the reason is because the district is trying to meet the demands of politicians who are unwilling to adjust the BSA until the district right-sizes their infrastructure by closing schools. Speaking of politicians in Juneau, here's what Mr. Anderson said at a joint work session with the school board and the municipality. Quote, "There have been people every year saying, when are you going to start right-sizing? Which can be defined a lot of different ways, but in their minds, you still have a lot of schools under capacity, and they don't feel comfortable giving us more money until they think we've made all the steps we can do to be as efficient as we can. There are a lot of people in Juneau that expect us to try and maximize our efficiency. Consolidating in order to meet political demands is the wrong way to approach school closures. It causes the district to choose political expediency over sustainable cost savings and to pursue unprincipled and non-transparent processes for solving the budget shortfall. If political expediency wasn't the primary objective, would the closure of 6 elementary schools with temporary cost savings of only $4 million be the only concrete recommendation on the table at this point to fill a $60 to $68 million budget gap? Would the district be planning to move a charter into this building that has 30 fewer students this year than Wonder Park Elementary does? Would the district be moving forward for a vote in less than 2 weeks to allocate over $37 million for the total rebuild of one of the smallest schools in the district, serving one of the most affluent and politically connected neighborhoods in Anchorage? The district has accepted the terms of a particular political vantage point that reductively translate efficiency into increased capacity rates. But is it efficient if far fewer students can walk to school and many more will have to be bused? Is it efficient if it is harder for teachers to connect with parents because they don't come by to drop off their kids at the door? Is it efficient if we see an increase in classroom behavior, discipline problems, and crime in the new 400 to 500 student elementary schools? Is it efficient to require parents to drive or for the district to bus 500 preschoolers to 2 centralized locations instead of providing preschool within walking distance throughout the city? Is it efficient? Does it promote student learning to uproot about 1,200 elementary-age kids, many of whom have suffered the worst of pandemic schooling and who represent a sizable portion of ASD's economically disadvantaged students? As Mr. Anderson said, right size can mean a lot of things to different people. The problem is that right now, people who don't represent this legislative district and don't live in Northeast Anchorage and don't know what its residents care about are dictating the terms of efficiency and quality, and that's wrong.
At the end, if you could give me a copy of your letter, that would be helpful. Laura Parker, followed by Elaine Crane, please.
Hello, thank you for listening and for being here tonight. As I said, I'm Laura Carpenter. I'm a parent, a spouse, and a voter, and I live down the street. And before I address the Wonder Park town closure, I just have to say that Sioux School District was mentioned. And personally, as a queer person and a gender queer person, I just want to say that there are a lot of things happening in the Sioux District that I find very scary. And so I'm personally very glad that our Anchorage School District is not transphobic and creating very dangerous policies. So my daughter graduated from Wonder Park in May. She attended this school from kindergarten through the 5th grade. She now attends Clark and has classmates that she met in kindergarten. Actually, one of the parents from Natalie's mom was here earlier speaking. She walked to school and walked to her friends' houses. We walked back here at night and on the weekends for literacy night and science night and neighborhood cleanup. This school has been an important part of our life and our neighborhood, and I would hate to see it close. I hope this meeting galvanizes us to vote for representatives that stand up for children, fund education, and make financial plans that support our schools in a manner that helps our students have the best chance of success. I feel like our leaders have failed us, and our children are paying the price. I wish you luck in finding the best solutions to support our students and community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Elaine Gray, followed by Samasu Kamoto.
I can help you pronounce that last
Thank
name. I'm Elaine Gray, and I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I live just down the street. And I'm here to advocate not just for my 2 grandchildren who attend Wonder Park, but for the almost 300 other students who attend here at Wonder Park, for the staff and teachers who show up every day, and for the rest of the working class families in this neighborhood. And I know who you are, I see you, who have been here for years. I am not convinced. I know that we are at a crisis point, but my question is, how has the situation been allowed to deteriorate to the point where we are right now? Because right now, we are facing an edge of the cliff crisis, where we are talking about closing schools where our littles attend. I am not convinced that we do not have enough money. I am not. There are two causes when we do not have enough money to do the things that we need to do. And it very well may be true that we have problems with allocations, but we should also look at how that money is being spent now, and how that money has been spent in the last 3 years, and 6 years, and 9 and 10. And why, if this is not your proposal, why these problems have been allowed to get to this point where we are talking about school closures. So if you are on the side of these parents and this working class community, then I would propose to you that we not just talk about these solutions, because we are not going to be able to solve these problems that have been festering for 3 or more years in 3 minutes or 3 meetings. I would propose that we really get into working. And there are people here who are paid. I'm sitting here, I'm a mom and a grandma, and I hear doctor this and doctor that, and consultant here and there. That would suggest to me that you are paid very well to do the job that we are now providing all this input regarding. But I make no judgments, I just point out a fact. This is what we need to do. We need to stop talking. We really do. We need to stop talking in a general fashion and work in a smaller representative stakeholder group so that we can be represented and be sure that our voices are heard. Did you say done?
I said time, please.
That our voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Matthew Camote, please.
I think she left.
She left? Okay, hopefully not because I mispronounced the name.
No.
Deborah Hanson, followed by Tammy Hanson.
Hi there, my name is Deborah Hanson. I'm a 40-year resident of Anchorage, and we made it through the 80s, which oil prices plummeted. My husband's coached soccer in Inwoodview Field, and we had to sieve the grass of the weeds so that the kids could even play. I mean, it was bad back then. We can get through this. So I have some questions. I was at your meeting last night, and I guess I didn't ask the questions properly. So one, is there a comprehensive plan to get the $69 million cut? 2, I listened to the assembly meeting in ASD that the other man mentioned, that joint board meeting, and I came to the same conclusion that you're proposing cutting these schools to get an increase for BSA. It seems political to me. That's my impression just from listening to the comments there. My next question is, are you going to ask the community for suggestions? When the city had problems in the 80s, they actually went out and asked the community, what would you cut, what would you do? And are you ever going to publish the numbers with some detail so we can figure out what's going on? I mean, I couldn't even find out how much we're paying our consultant from Western Demographics to do this work. Next question is, ASD board set aside the $37 million, it was brought up earlier, to build a new school for inlet youth. Is that money restricted in any way? Next question, could the money be used to keep the schools open? Next question. I listened to you last night to tell the Abbott Lou parents that you don't know what the impact's going to be when they move their kids to a non-Title I school. Today you say that everything will be fine. Is that really true? My husband works at a Title I school. They do a lot of support for the kids, and the kids would not do as well if they didn't have that support. And our kids are our future. I mean, everybody talks about that, but it really is true. Will you be losing any federal money by closing these Title I schools? What is your dollar goal for the admin reduction? And then I have a suggestion for the Wonder Park parents here.
The reason ASD is planning to spend over $37 million to build a new Inlet View school, rather than saving the money and just remodeling it, is because if they did anything different, between 100 and 300 parents from Inlet View would show up here and mob the place along with their kids. Get involved, like the other guy said, vote for the right people. Talk to your assembly person. Your superintendent's back there. All these people work for you. We pay their salaries through our taxes. I mean, we can do something. It's our cities and our schools. So anyway, that would be my true thing. So talk to people. We need to do something about it. It's really our community. I lived here a long time and fought with a bunch of people to make things better. We all can do that. It's important. Thanks.
Sure. I'm fairly positive I won't remember every question. Let me, I can answer a couple of them, and I know you have emailed the board multiple times, so feel free to email us again and we can answer the rest. So yes, do we have a pathway? We do have a pathway, and we have talked about it. And at the last board meeting, when we talked to the board, I told her that we had a lot of vacancies this year. We needed to wait for the second payroll run, which was October into the beginning of November, and start looking at the cost savings for, it sounds bad, right? But we did have a lot of vacancies, so our expenses are a little bit low. So we relooked that. We're relooking a lot of other costs to include when we put hiring freezes, hiring delays. We got the OASIS count from the state, and we're looking at finalizing our projected revenue. And so on December 5th, as I briefed at the last, I'm thinking 2 or 3 meetings to the board, we're going to brief what is called the pro forma. We brief it every year, and it will show our new projected revenue, new projected expenses. Because we have some more students, it's not a huge large number, but it is more. There is going to be some revenue, so we'll show the adjusted. And then, as I told the board, we'll look at all the things we put on the plate, and then there's 3 things left. One is the $37 million, which is very flexible by design when the legislature passes it. And yes, it could be used for operational shortfalls. The second is fund balance for all those cost savings that we've had this year, whether they were intentional or not, when it came to having over 400 vacancies in September. There's still cost savings. So you have the fund balance for that, which only, again, it's one-time funds, right? It doesn't fix your long-term projected. But then the final thing is people-to-teacher ratio. So there's always a path to get to 0, because there always has to be a path, because the state statute demands that we pass a zero-balance budget. The city's charter demands that we pass it in February. One-time funds, if the legislature does that this year, are very likely to occur later, past February. Generally, it's in May-June timeframe. But I'm sure I answered like 1/10 of your questions. I apologize.
Thank you, Jim. Tammy Hansen, followed by Janelle Hantwin.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Hansen. I am not a public speaker, so I apologize right now in case I start to cry. I started here at Wonder Park in 1973 when my sisters and I started right here when we had a family home built in this neighborhood in the Wonder Park subdivision. While streets were named after judges and attorneys, not many people know that. We didn't just grow up here. We had the builder of our house that lived 1 block away. Kitty corner from my house was the cabinet maker that put in 90% of the cabinets in all of the houses around us. My family and I moved back home to my childhood home to raise my children in the early 90s. Right there is the 3rd generation to work at Wonder Park, and we have a 4th generation who is my grandson who goes and attends 2nd grade here. My mother volunteered here, she worked here, I worked here, I had a daycare here for 10 years. This is my home. I've been here for 22 years as the administrative assistant. I've seen the ebbs and flows of all of the enrollments. Last year in kindergarten, we had 27, 28. That's what our first grade is now. This year, it's a low. It's 14 and 16. But how well does that make it for those 5-year-olds who haven't been in school at all? We are a walking school where families rely and depend on that. Isn't that what community school is all about? Some have no transportation, single parents reside at a shelter in our boundaries or another shelter, or work 2 jobs. If you think that the busing service is going to improve attendance, it probably will for a few. But the ones that miss that bus, that are waking themselves up and their siblings, they miss it. Chances are they're going to call and try and get one of us to drive them, because we've done that in pairs as well, to go pick up kids. We also lose the valuable conferencing time that we have with parents since we are a walking school. It's about connections. We have to make connections with our kids, and our parents, and our families, and our staff members. I was astounded at the calculation that used to compute the capacity of schools did not include a place for our resources special education to teach. These students need the least restrictive environment for them to learn. And yet they weren't even on the capacity. I've rewritten this so many times. I don't know if on the table that possibly one of those charter schools could come in and provide, live with us here. We have ample campus, we have a garden center, we have ample space for everybody to come, and anybody. ANCCS, I don't know why that is even going to be put here, because they're building their own on APU campus. And I can do more, but I will do the board. If fully funded by the state, will schools be safe? And can we still combine them and have a chance?
Thank you, Tammy. Let's call Bill Henry, followed by Oscar Alamo.
And I have spoken before you guys before because my school is also on the list of closures, 5 out of 6 of the schools on the list. And Wonder Park, the reason I'm here today is because I actually went into education because of Wonder Park. This is the very first school I ever volunteered at. I had 12 girls in my 21st century after-school program here at Wonder Park that really inspired me to be a teacher. And now I'm a teacher in ASD. And I'm going to do a teacher thing right now, and I know that this has been a really long night, and I know there's a lot of distractions and a lot of nerves have been hit in the room, but we are here to speak on behalf of our students and to give the attention to the community and to give the attention to those of us that are up here. It's important, and it's important as teachers when we come into the room, we want our kiddos to be paying attention and learning what we're learning. So I do appreciate your attention and your time this evening with us. My comment is very concise this evening. You all brought up the census data, and there was also information from 2016, which I also think is important. Back in 2016, Wonder Park was the most diverse school in the United States. Mountain View is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the United States. This school is important. This school has a large community of different and diverse cultures that should be celebrated. So my question that I'm posing, or my comment that I'm posing this evening, and it may or may not have been intentional to have 5 out of 6 schools on this list as title schools. However, this does show a message, and it does send a message to our community as well as our kiddos who go to these title schools that they don't matter as much as other students who are not attending schools on these lists. And they do matter, and these communities matter, and the folks that showed up here this evening matter. So thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Also, Oliver, followed by Is possible here?
Good luck.
Okay. J through 80.
I also hate public speaking, so bear with me. So I was in an inlet, I'm an alumni graduate of Inlet Elementary School and was in the 4th/5th split there growing up. And I just want to say splits can work. There may actually be an opportunity for split classes, considering there's greater variability in student performance and variability in student needs since the pandemic. I think that there's just a natural opportunity where that could be a benefit. I also want to say thank you for working hard these last years to maintain services without any increase in the base student allocation adjusting for inflation, which is very real. Inflation is real. I also want to say closing 6 schools seems to address less than 10% of this fiscal shortfall. So other than not building a new Inlet U, which seems unconscionable considering all the school closure business and inequitable, I shudder to think what would need to happen to address the remaining deficit. I also hope that those working with the Alaskan Legislature advocating support for the Anchorage School District encourages that body to consider the economic impact of the brain drain that inconsistent funding and budget cuts to education may have as schools are planned to be shut down, as this one, and specials enrichment at the remaining schools are threatened. That's the 30% you were showing. I recognize that you don't control your funding. And the gal who asked all the questions, going to go ask, definitely ask mine. But if facilities are 15% of your budget and addressing this, this proposal to shut down 6 schools will address that in some way, I just wonder about what else would happen with to address the remaining $50 million shortfall. Like, how many teachers does that represent versus how many schools does it represent? Like $3 million is closing 6 schools. How many teachers is it?
So I think I can top that. So there's 3 things after the board has made decisions on everything we've already offered. School closures is one of those. Ignite. If 6th grade goes to middle school, then over the course of a couple years, we'll reduce the cost of 6th grade band and orchestra. The school closures is as much about having under capacity facilities as it is money, but a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago I started talking to the board. When we get into December, we'll look at all the stuff that we put out. It really is 3 things. One of those is the one-time money from the state that may or may not, as discussed tonight, be used for all or a portion of Inlet U or not. The fund balance, which I talked about a few minutes ago, we're finalizing our updated revenue, our updated expenses. We have saved a lot of money because we had so many vacancies. We weren't happy about the vacancies, but it did save money. And we're also looking at all of our other projected costs. So and then the final thing, after we look at state one-time, district one-time money, the final thing you look at is pupil to teacher ratio. If we were to look at a PTR of 5, and this is hypothetical, this is not a recommendation, this is not in any way leaning toward, I don't even want to build that chart. But if you were to do a pupil to teacher ratio of 5, from kindergarten to 12th grade, it's about $30 million, or about 280 plus teachers. That's the enormity if we didn't use our emergency savings, and if we don't look at the state one-time funding. I can't imagine that if PTR is used, that it wouldn't be far less than 5. I just don't know what that final answer is going to be. I mean, there's a lot of tough calls, and honestly, for every kid out there, if music is their thing and they're never going to play football or hockey, then music is the one thing that motivates them to come to school and to stay in school and to finish school. If it's hockey or swimming or at night or everything else we put on the plate, we are well aware that those things really do mean the world, not just to the staff that gets up. I mean, We've talked to the staff. These really are all important, but they all need to be looked at by the board. They'll all make decisions, and then we go to the final three. District funds from our savings account, state one-time, and PTR. And those really are the last things we have, because we have to pass a budget in February, and it's extremely unlikely that the legislature could have funding bills in the first 2 or 3 weeks of a session.
Thank you, Jim. Jane, do you have any concluding remarks?
What would have to happen for that to happen? Like, I know 49% of us thought we voted for the right person, but it didn't pass over 50 in this neighborhood. So, like, what would have to happen?
I don't think I can answer that. I've been in Juneau every year for 7 years now. I can tell you one thing, and that's every legislator I've talked to this year, either those who know that they're going to be legislators or those who believe that I have never seen support this strong from a group of legislators that I've talked to, that they're going to try to do something this session. I've never seen it this solid, this strong since I've been here.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Jane. Jane was our final speaker, so I'd like to thank everybody for your participation. If you spoke from a written statement, it would make it easier for us to transcribe if I could take a picture of it. So if you could bring it up to me, I'd love to make a certain person in Jane's office a little bit happier by having her have something to work from. All of the comments will be forwarded to the board. We will also summarize them so that it will be easy to see major topics. This is the final of our 6-meeting cycle. I'd like to thank the communications staff. I'd like to thank the IT staff, the security staff for all of their work in this process. And thank you for being involved. This decision will be made on December 15th. Is that correct, Jim? 19th. So stay tuned to the district website for further information. Thanks, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here today. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. The internet in here is not meant for streaming, and it became very apparent about midway through. It completely crashed, had to reset and restart everything, and it didn't matter. It was even my monitoring phone wouldn't even play a video. That's how bad their internet got in here. Thank you guys all for being here today. This was the final town hall at Wonder Elementary School for the 6 school closures proposed by the ASD school district and the board members that are involved with that decision. As you can tell, if you bring any alternative opinion to these type of meetings, as I did today, they will single you out and point you out as the evil person that is transphobic and whatever not what they wanted the claim that it was. And obviously, you guys all know me well enough to know that is not the truth. Take a moment and like and share this video, like and share the other video of the beginning of all of this. Catch my testimony and what I had to say. I will recheck things on my drive back home, make sure that you guys did get to hear it. And if not, I know it got recorded. And please, again, take a moment, like and share this video. You can find this on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and by tomorrow afternoon, you will also find this on Rumble. Again, like, share, go to our website, Politadick.com, click the support button, help us grow. We like being able to be where mainstream media wants to give you their 30-second soundbite of what is being said and discussed in these meetings. We, on the other hand, take the time to do it all unfiltered and uncut. I saw Channel 2 in here earlier. They lasted for about 15 minutes of the meeting when people started giving testimony, and then they packed themselves up to go get their 30-second soundbite. Again, like, share. Thank you guys for all being here tonight, and have a beautiful, wonderful, excellent Thanksgiving with your family and friends.